Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are doing research on Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, or you're thinking about taking a trip there, you are in the right place because I just returned from the Grand Sirenis Punta Cana, which is a popular all-inclusive in the area, and I have 11 tips for you that I hope are going to be helpful to you during your research. And before I jump into the tips, if you could take just 1 second to hit the subscribe button and like this video, that would be so helpful to me and make me so happy. So thank you for doing that. And without further ado, let me jump into tip number 1. So that is to know all about all of the free activities that are offered at the Grand Sirenis Punta Cana. So when I was booking this trip, I knew that as an all-inclusive, the food and drinks at the resort would be free, but I didn't know until I actually got to the resort that they offer a ton of free activities, which is great if you're traveling individually or as a couple, or especially if you're traveling with kids, because you know you need to keep them busy. So definitely go to the link that I'm popping in the description below to check out the actual schedule and agenda of all of their events and activities that they're offering. They have everything from kayaking to beach volleyball to archery to shows, mini disco and dancing for the kids. So many different events, like a Michael Jackson tribute show. They had so many different things, fun things for you and your family members to do. So definitely know about those in advance so that you can plan. All right, tip number 2 is about which buildings you could stay at. And you may have already seen a map of the Grand Sirenis, but if not, here is one for your convenience. And you'll see that the Grand Sirenis, it's not one giant building. It is a large building that houses the lobby and the 2 buffets and some of the other facilities, and then a bunch of smaller buildings interspersed with the actual places that you can stay. So we found, being in a large group with 21 people, with a bunch of kids, that we enjoyed being close to the buffets and that big building with the lobbies. So the buildings that we thought were most convenient were 11, 13, 31, and 32. It does kind of depend. If you want to be closer to the pools and the beach, then some of the buildings that I'm showing here might be better for you. But for us, we just found it convenient we actually stayed in building 33, which is one building over from some of the buildings I'm recommending. But we did find it convenient to be closer to the food, right? Because that's what's most important to us. But definitely take a look at the map and, try to request your buildings if you can. Then for tip number 3, so like I mentioned, food is really important to us, especially when you're with a bunch of kids. You don't want to end up in a situation where nothing's open for food and you guys are starving and they're starting to complain, right? So there is a point in time during the day where the buffets close at the resort, and I believe the sports bar is open, but if you don't want to, it's a little bit further from, all of the buildings. So if you don't want to go all the way to the sports bar, you can go to the Sanoa buffet and you can order pizza. I think the limit is 2 pizzas per room. And what you could do is order that and then pick it up later. It does take about an hour, but I found it to be helpful during the time that my kids were hungry and none of the buffets were open. I think it was something like, 3 to 5 or something like that. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4, I mentioned there's 2 buffets, right? So there's one called Macau, one called Sanoa, and we just found Macau to have a better selection. There, the food seemed to be a little bit more interesting. Macau it's still good. I would say, go in there with tempered expectations. It is an all-inclusive, and if you stay at all-inclusives, you kind of know what, the food is like. But for an all-inclusive, I thought the food was better than expected. You can see some of the selection here. It's not just your run-of-the-mill basics. They actually had a little bit more elevated cuisine And yeah, I would give it maybe like a 6 out of 10 for an all-inclusive buffet. So definitely Macau was a little bit worse than Sanoa, but if you're looking for something quick, Sanoa, I think people just knew that it was better, so it had a longer line. So yeah, Macau if you want something quick, and Sanoa for a little better quality and selection. And then tip number 5, there are these concierges that you could just call from your room, or if you walk along, that main path going to the pool and the beach, there are kind of these glass huts on the side of that path, and those are your concierges. So I would utilize those to help you book restaurants, make reservations, do any activities, and those were pretty helpful. Just a warning, they will try in a lot of cases to sign you up for their Ultimate Leisure Club. So I think you can actually, if you don't mind taking like an hour or two, they treat you to a VIP lunch, and they also give you like $80 to spend at the resort stores. So if you don't mind doing that, it might be worth a shot, but I didn't have time for that. Tip number 6, I heard this from a bunch of people that I spoke to at the resort: avoid the American restaurant Route 66. I don't know how much truth there is in that. We didn't actually try it ourselves. It's kind of a diner style restaurant. So yeah, up to you, but we decided to avoid Route 66. In terms of the restaurant selection, they have like I mentioned, the 2 buffets. They also have a snack bar right near the pool, which actually had really good selection. It was more than just snacks. They have a barbecue place. They have a rodizio, like Brazilian steaks and meats. They also have Italian. They also have a Japanese restaurant called Ikebana. You could also eat on the beach. So the selection was pretty good, I would say. Maybe not like 5-star restaurant worthy, but definitely better than a lot of all-inclusives that I've been to. Tip number 7, you probably already know this, but in the Dominican Republic, do not brush your teeth with the tap water. Supposedly, there are harmful bacteria that if your stomach is not used to them, you could end up, in the bathroom for most of your trip. So you can get plenty of bottled water from the staff of the hotel. So please do not brush your teeth with the tap water in the Dominican Republic. Tip number 8, this one is pretty obvious, but the better you tip, the better you will be treated. So for example, a lot of times at all-inclusives, and this was the case at the Grand Sirenis, the drinks that they give you at the bar tend to be a little on the weaker side, with less alcohol, but if you start dropping singles, they usually will increase the amount of alcohol that they give you and just in general treat you better. So that's tip number 8. Another quick tip number 9, book your transport to the hotel and back to the airport in advance. I saw a lot of bad reviews about the Grand Sirenis and their in-house transport to the airport, so please book your transport in advance. And I would use, one of the more reputable companies in the Dominican Republic. We use DAT, and I thought they were really good. So definitely check them out. I'll put the link in the description below. Tip number 10, bring your own wine. So I really prefer wine. That's my preferred alcoholic drink. I don't drink hard liquor. So I was hoping that the wine at the resort would be decent, but it really was not. At the bars near the beach and the pool, the wine was pretty much undrinkable. Like, it kind of tasted like vodka mixed with apple juice a little bit, but weaker. So luckily my husband was smart enough to pick up some bottles of wine at the duty free right when we flew into Dominican Republic. So that would be a tip for you if you enjoy wine and you're planning to have wine at the Grand Sirenis. If you really don't have any wine on you and you are just like, oh, the wine at the bars is undrinkable, The La Hira, which is the Rodizio restaurant, had some actually decent white wine. So that was the one place that I found on the whole resort that where the wine was pretty good, but I would play it safe and just buy some at the duty free. Tip number 11. So sometimes when you go to these all-inclusives, you kind of get sick of your immediate surroundings and you kind of want to go off of the all-inclusive. But the problem with that is if you go off the all-inclusive, first of all, it's annoying to kind of book transportation. And also you might end up spending more money, right? When you could be getting stuff for free. So my tip for the Grand Sirenis is to make use of their sports bar, coffee shop, and their kids club. So these are a little bit further away from the main building that I showed you with the lobby. It's probably like a 5-minute walk away from there towards the water park. But you can get just like a different vibe going at the sports bar. You can stop for coffee, pretty good Dominican coffee at the coffee shop. They also have sandwiches and ice cream, which is pretty good, like gelato type ice cream. And they also have a kids club where you could either drop your kids off or just let them play around in the facilities. So I would definitely make use of those. And the sports bar, as I mentioned before, has, I think it's just coffee, or sorry, not coffee, drinks and hot dogs and burgers, but it stays open kind of on the off hours of the buffet, so that's another place to pick up some snacks. So definitely make use of those facilities. Then a final bonus tip, the room that I would recommend that you not stay in, that you definitely not stay in, is room 3301. And the reason is that when we stayed in that room, we actually kept getting leaks from the toilet, leaks from the ceiling and the lights. So that room, it is convenient because it's kind of right near the path that goes to the buffet, but that is a room that I definitely would not stay in. And final bonus tip, I promise. I do feel like I'm rambling, but I found out that there are some services that, are not on the schedule and are not really publicized, but that are available to you with certain wristbands. So my family, we had yellow wristbands, and I think one member of the family asked, at the spa, what services can I get? And it turns out that they were able to get a free hydrotherapy session. So I was under the impression that the spa was all paid services like massages. I didn't know you could get free stuff. So it doesn't hurt to ask, show your wristband and ask what other services you can get with that. And I think that is all of my tips. Finally, I know I've been talking for a long time, but I hope that these tips were helpful for you in making a decision about where to stay. The Grand Sirenis, I will say as my final last word, is it is more of a budget, all-inclusive resort. Even though it is rated 5 stars, it definitely to me did not feel like a 5-star. It's more like a 3-star, but if you consider all of the free activities you get, the amount of food and options, dining options that you get, there's a beautiful beach and really nice pool facilities. If you consider all of that and a price point of about, $200 per night, all inclusive, that's pretty darn good. So to me, it's kind of like going in with lower expectations. Don't expect to be staying at a 5-star hotel, but all in all, I think it was really worthwhile for such an affordable stay. So hope you found this helpful in making your decision about where to go in Punta Cana. Again, I would love it so much if you would subscribe and like and share. I would be so appreciative, and hope you found this helpful and that you have a great day. Thank you guys. See you next time.